Greetings all. This is Mark Vigoroso at the Enterprise Edge. I am founder and CEO coming to you on a Friday afternoon. I am pleased to have with me today Miranda Nash, Global Vice President of Enterprise AI at Oracle. She is a longtime Oracle veteran. Over the years, has spent multiple times in various parts of Oracle. She's coming to us from her San Francisco office today. Very pleased to have her. Miranda, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you. So good to be here, Mark.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, we've got a lot planned, and as always, probably more than we have time for, but we'll do our best and look forward to the conversation. Thank you all again for listening in, and there'll be an opportunity for you all to come back around with questions if you have any, but not live on the stream. So thanks all for your attention. So let's get to it. We're going to talk about a topic that has got a little bit of airtime these days, and that's AI. In fact, Miranda has her very own podcast, as I'm told. I think it's called AI Now with Oracle.
Watched it, right?
I have indeed. And so Miranda's been in this seat, and she's interviewed some pretty cool tech leaders and visionaries. And so I have to ask this question, since you're usually the one asking the questions, Miranda. What's the one question that you secretly wish someone would ask you in an interview? And then maybe I will act upon that.
Well, first, I want to flip this back.
Okay.
Something that I don't want to be asked.
Okay.
Because it's a common question I don't have any good answer at all. But, tell us about your hobbies. What do you do outside of work? I have no good answer for this.
Yeah. Okay. Crap. I'm gonna have to make some edits there for the no. Go ahead.
It's family, it's work, and so yeah, I really don't like that question. But I'll say one question that is kind of a typical intro kind of question that I don't mind being asked is, what's something unique about you that people wouldn't expect or wouldn't know?
Oh, well, let's see. What should I guess, or should I just ask you? I'm just going to ask you. What would the common person not know about you that you're willing to share?
This is kind of unusual. I grew up in a geodesic dome house with no radio.
Very cool.
So maybe I'm a little bit, quirky or something because of that.
You're very well-rounded.
There we go. Well-rounded. Nice.
In Eastern Washington.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Oh, that's cool. Now I have a nice image. I bet you could probably get an Airbnb in a geodesic dome in Eastern Washington.
Yeah. I bet that's the thing now. Yeah.
So anyway, all right, that's cool. Now I feel like I'm getting to know you. So, all right. So your job at Oracle has a lot to do with where AI is going in the enterprise application space. Now I'm not going to ask you about hobbies, but I am going to ask you, is there anything outside of work where you are leveraging technology in a way that is noteworthy or maybe informs your perspectives in your work life, or how is technology playing a role in your personal life that might not be the obvious, like obviously your phone, but how is that playing out?
I mean, the main use I have for AI is the thought partner. It's
Yes.
not like that's unusual, but I really rely on the thought partner use case.
That's right.
And honestly, with GPT-5, from my 24 hours of experience so far, it takes that to a whole much better level. Yeah. So for me personally, that's the biggie. And you mentioned Airbnb. I was one of the use cases that I think more consumer offerings need to have is just a natural language based search. This is a common use case, right? And I've been on Airbnb recently for personal reasons, trying to find, a place within 2 hours driving distance with a pool table or some kind of game, like an air hockey, something like that, right? For the kids and some number, and they can't respond to that. Why not? This should be every consumer property should have this concept now.
Yeah, that interface. Yep. Yeah, and you mentioned GPT-5. I've again, it's been out what 48, 36 hours,
Yeah.
and the thought partner now has a PhD, is what I've been told.
Yeah, right.
Right.
But
So
what I like about the new thought partner, not just the qualifications, but the willingness to speak more truth. Be a
yes.
little more, be a little tougher.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Awesome. All right, Miranda, let's get down to business. Let's talk about your day job a little bit and what you're uncovering and what you're building and what you're observing. So let's talk about not only AI, but agentic AI and specifically agents. And it's, I think Gen AI is still obviously very relevant, lots of use cases. But agentic is being discussed as quite a bit more transformational, at least potentially, in an enterprise setting, right? Autonomous enterprise, right? The agentic economy, all these monikers flying around, and there's quite a I guess you could call it a race. I mean, there's so many developments and investments and bets that are being made and acquisitions happening for some of the biggest technology providers on the planet, including Oracle, and it's kind of people call it the agent wars, or there's just a race, right, to capitalize on the commercial opportunities. And I'm curious, in your seat, as you see the competitive landscape evolving in front of you and you're participating in it, um, what do you think will differentiate in the end? Obviously, Oracle, you work for Oracle, you can certainly say what's going to differentiate Oracle, but in the end, whoever, there's probably going to be multiple winners. There'll be space for multiple winners, if you want to call it that. But what will be sort of the differentiating characteristics or investments or capabilities or partnerships that are really going to make the difference in this sort of agentic economy, if you will?
You zoomed way out.
Oh, there we go. That's a 10-minute question.
Okay, so let me start from an Oracle
Yep.
perspective. This is what I know, right? Um, so look, there are going to be, like you said, a lot of winners. This
Yep.
is going to be a huge space. There's room for a lot of us.
Yep.
And because of that, there will be quite, some amount of doing the same thing, right? We are
Hmm.
all making agent platforms that
Yep.
take advantage of this new technology. And I've
Hmm.
even heard some of the most, you know, kind of startups with super high valuations just called things like just a wrapper. Well, that just a wrapper is at, if it's very targeted to what customers care about,
Hmm.
um, can can be tremendously valuable, right? So that's one way to differentiate. Be
Hmm.
super targeted and specific to what customers care about. Um,
Hmm.
that can be on a use case basis, very, very narrow. Um, in the Oracle case, our big differentiation is being close to the transactional data in the back office, right? The
Hmm.
finance systems, the HR systems, the supply chain systems, the
Hmm.
critical systems that are the backbone for the company. Our agents are close to that data. We have native access to business objects that you can't get from an outside platform. And so fundamentally, if your data center of gravity, is in those back office fusion systems, that's
Hmm.
really why you would want to use the Fusion AI Agent Studio. But like every company's going to have some different angle like that, right? And
Hmm.
it's an ecosystem. And
Yep.
this may not be the Oracle of old that I knew a long time ago, but the Oracle of new is a very active player in the you know co-opetition ecosystem.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the walls are blurry, right? There's a lot of partnerships going on, and
Mhm.
not necessarily, I mean, acquisitions too, but just partnerships, strategic partnerships with complementary capabilities. And so I heard a great term used the other day, capability coalitions or something like that. It's sort
Mm,
of like these
okay. Yeah.
embodiments of what, and well, also because we're so early in this game, right? I think people are hedging their bets a little bit. So interesting. So you mentioned something about GPT and um, the quality and maybe the toughness of the responses getting better, and it made
Mhm.
me think of the next question, which is and you think about it in an enterprise environment, some of the biggest companies in the world use Oracle, very mission critical, high risk, high reward type
Mm,
operations. In many cases, lives are at stake, right?
mhm,
And there's not a lot of room for error. And I'm curious when you think about where we are with AI and the evolution of large language models and conversational interfaces in co-pilots and all the various AI use cases. The truth is there's still a lot of experimentation going on, and there's still a lot of fail fast and learn going on. Um, in not necessarily in production, but also yes, in production. And I'm curious, how do you think about balancing sort of this sort of speed of innovation that we've honestly never seen before
mhm,
with the enterprise requirement for not necessarily zero failure, but in some cases it's close to zero failure, right? So do you see a tension there, or how do you see that reconciling as we sort of introduce this emerging tech into
mhm,
some very unforgiving enterprise environments?
mhm. Yeah. Well, a couple of things. I mean, one aspect of this is that customers have they need to figure out this motion, right,
Yep.
of AI adoption and continual innovation, et cetera. And what I'm seeing is that they start with very low risk use cases,
Hmm.
and there are many of them in the enterprise. Not everything's high risk, high reward.
Yep.
And that's important because it accelerates the learning loop, which
Hmm.
is fundamental for really driving, massive returns
Hmm.
on some of the high risk, high reward. So that's the first part, start with low risk. And
Hmm.
customers have largely done that. I think most
Hmm.
customers I talked to a year ago, it was about um, kind of instructive. And now it's like, okay, you've done that. Great.
Hmm.
Um, Another aspect is just from our point of view, at least with Oracle, the security aspects are non-negotiable.
Hmm.
So we're always going through, the we're always going through APIs that preserve the role-based access controls, for example,
Hmm.
always maintaining the securities of security of the system when it's an agent taking action or you know responding to queries.
Hmm.
And so the way we do it, that's just non-negotiable. And I was in a customer briefing the other day where someone was asking about our philosophy on kind of taking a browser based agent approach,
Hmm.
versus sort of an API based strategy. And right now, we're really using an API strategy because of exactly this point,
Hmm.
to just as another layer of it, insurance in the enterprise,
Hmm.
that, at the end, there is a secure API and you've got assurance that the agents, have to funnel through that.
Hmm. No, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot
Yeah.
of sense. So, it's sort of an offshoot from that, right? You think about um, maybe those lower risk use cases, the earlier, maybe low hanging fruit. I've heard of, and seen a lot of good testimony on early returns from those efforts, right? With, productivity savings, basic stuff, right? Just in terms of like time and motion studies and things that are just obvious efficiency gains, right? Just by automating routine tasks and um, semi-autonomous use cases, human in the loop use cases. So I guess my question is from a development perspective, you think about software development. Software development has gone through, a few iterations over the decades. You had waterfall, you had agile, and different sort of operating philosophies for how to bring product to market faster without sacrificing quality, how to stay, closer to voice of market and all these different strategic reasons for evolving that methodology. And I'm where we are with AI, it seems to me it's a highly iterative process. It's a highly um, incremental, iterative innovation cycle. Maybe there'll be some, massive step function changes, but a lot of small bites and fast iteration. And I'm curious at Oracle. Number one is, do you see that? And number two, is there anything fundamental that's changing about how you develop software in the AI world as a result of that?
So absolutely we see it. And
Yep.
we've kind of taken a a breadth first, scale
Mhm.
first approach, because that's
Mhm.
when you're big, you need to do that.
Mhm.
And one major change I see in software development is just that, wasted effort, or let's
Mhm.
say, what might result in tech debt or whatever, is not the primary concern. Wasted time
Mm.
is the primary concern here.
Mhm.
And so that's why, again, we're going scale first. And
Mm.
we've recently, one of our strategies for achieving that is these, what we just call them internal hackathons, but
Mm.
basically we get everybody building agents
Yep.
and have, in like a matter of, say, 4 weeks, thousands of agents produced out of the team.
Yeah.
And what that does, of course, is it spreads knowledge. It accelerates our learning loops. And again, it just, yeah, that's just one example how we changed development. Another is, we have a hub team that sort of tries to stay a little bit out in front and then spread that knowledge, share that knowledge through, what was originally answering questions, normal stuff, right? But now continually basically trying to put themselves out of jobs,
Yeah.
kind of figuratively, by creating agents around everything they do, right?
Yeah.
And so I think we're trying to instill that ethos as well, more broadly,
Yeah.
that if you can just automate away in very rapid fashion
Yeah.
parts of your job, and it elevates all of us.
Yeah.
Certainly I've seen that. It's not scary. It's
Yeah.
about doing more, and that works for us internally too.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And it's one of the, you mentioned scary, right? There is a lot of fear. There's a lot of, um, some of it might be justified, I guess, because it's unknown. The unknown is scary.
Hmm.
But the reality is some of the early testimonies are, people are being redeployed, reskilled, rebalanced. There's all kinds of terms that I've seen. And um, it kind of leads to the question of when you look at the interaction between humans and agents going forward, um, there's, I'm not going to ask you to predict the future because that's really hard. But um, how do you see that collaboration between humans and agents evolving in the near term, which would be what, in the next maybe 2 years, when you have this aspirational view of on a sort of semi-autonomous processes going on, like literally with no human intervention, unless there's maybe an override that's required. But
Yeah.
how do you see that collaboration evolving in terms of maybe level of effort? What's that governance between human and agent? How does that work going forward? The digital labor force, right, has been talked about by other companies, and we should onboard them just like we onboard human employees, and right, and govern them the same way. So talk to me about that a little bit, the human machine interface.
Hmm. Okay. Well, let's see. Again, different companies are carving out different, positions on this, right?
Yep.
But our position is to keep the line pretty clear, very
Mhm.
clear, right? We don't try to make it seem like this is a human in disguise or anything like that. We try to make
Mhm.
it very clear. And again, I think it's relevant to our use cases in
Mhm.
at Oracle. And for example, one of the ways that we evaluate responses, because that's kind of a key part of it, that there are different measures: thoroughness, clarity. But one is oh shoot, I'm forgetting the name of it, but it's like it's the opposite of anthropomorphizing. So
Oh.
it's like, this is behaving like you would want a computer to behave, not
Mhm. Yep.
embodying,
Yep. I see.
so
Yep.
so that's sort of one thing, the way we look at it. But in terms of the human interaction, again, I think it's basically as everyone gets more comfortable
Mm.
using the tools to the fullest,
Mhm.
then I don't know, human computer interaction is still a big domain, right? But I don't
Yeah. Yeah.
think
Yeah.
it'll be such this separate thing about how to think of AI as this a
Yeah.
specialized notion. And I'm a human optimist, a
Yeah.
technology optimist, yes, but
Yeah.
also a human optimist because, and that's mostly because of seeing basically how the technology is playing out with younger folks,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They've led the way. They
Mhm.
opened everyone's eyes to ChatGPT in the first, few days, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Um, and I was just in one of my AI Now sessions. We talked about this report from McKinsey called Super Agency.
Mhm.
One of the bits of research there shows that, individual contributors are like 30% more likely to embrace AI than leaders right now, at least as of a few
Mhm.
months ago.
Mhm.
So I think all of that bodes real well for us.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. So that's yeah, that's true. And I think you're right. I think there is a lot of I guess it's a sort of trust. I was gonna say, yeah, so trust, right? So trust keeps coming up as a theme in a lot of my conversations with customers and users who are trying to figure out what's real and what isn't, what's theater, what's fact,
Mhm.
what's propaganda, what's marketing, what's
Yeah.
science, right? And there's a lot of highly skeptical, if not cynical, enterprise tech buyers out there that need to be shown and then shown again and then shown again. And you could say there's always been an element of that with enterprise technology buying, right? I suppose you could say that's a little amplified now because there are so much noise, right, out there and claims that are being made. So with that, I wonder, I'm going to spring this one on you. You don't have to name anybody, but are there any Oracle customer stories that are noteworthy? Maybe early adopters, or it doesn't have to be agentic, but just in the overall AI sphere that have seen some real tangible fact-based returns.
Yeah. Um, Look at Oracle AI World.
Yep.
We've been rebranded.
Yep.
We're going to hear those names, but I'll
Yep.
give you a couple of the examples nameless for now.
Yep.
Um, so I'm thinking, for example, about a large hospitality company that by name for sure.
Hmm.
They've certainly embraced, the embedded generative AI throughout their HCM systems, and we've
Hmm.
got a lot of embedded AI, hundreds of examples. And yes, they talked about productivity gains at an individual level, but I think to me the more interesting point has been what they've seen in task completion. So,
Mm.
we can tell in the cloud applications, there's a very high abandonment rate
Hmm.
across almost every task, frankly. But
Yeah.
there's a correlation with basically how much text is required, how much writing you have to do.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah. So there's a very clear advantage in terms of task completion, both completion as well as time on task,
Mm.
right? When using the embedded generative AI. So we'll hear more about it by name again at Cloud World, but it matters to the company because they're already making a big investment
Yeah.
with us, right?
Yeah.
And to see, the kind of the time leakage or whatever you want to call it is concerning.
Yeah.
They're very happy to be getting more value out of their systems and out of their, employee usage, self-service.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's great. No, that's great. Quick plug. When and where is
Oh,
the next Oracle
AI World.
AI World? Sorry.
Yeah. Oh dear. It's in October. I think.
Okay.
Yep. October. We'll have to look up the
That's okay.
exact
I
date.
sprung that on you. It's in October, so you could, and there's only one, right? Or is it a road
There's
show?
only one, AI
Okay.
World. Well,
Okay.
there will be more, but there's one in Las Vegas that kicks it all off.
Okay. Perfect.
Mhm.
All right, Miranda. Well, I could keep going. We're gonna conclude with the speed round. I'm gonna reserve the right to have you back in a few months because, or maybe I'll just come on your podcast. Then we'll
There
switch.
we go.
We'll switch. But thank you again for being with us, and we're gonna do a quick fun round here. Enjoyed your insights. Let's see. Okay, first one. Okay, so in your career, you've seen a few different angles. You've seen sort of the big enterprise, sort of the scrappy startup. And I'm curious if you look back, those are some pretty different energies. And I'm curious, what do you prefer as a work environment and as an innovation environment? Big enterprise platform player or scrappy disruptive upstart?
Okay, so caveat, most of my last 20 years or whatever
Yep.
in big companies and at
Yep.
Oracle has been as an entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur. Yep.
So it may not reflect all big company activities. So I've either been an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur. And I have
Yeah.
to say, being an entrepreneur is amazing because of the incredible customer base we can call on.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess that's sort of the best of both worlds. That's true.
Mm.
So great. Awesome. Okay. If Oracle built an AI agent based on you, and we'll call it Agent Miranda, what would be its one superpower and what would be one of its quirks?
Quirk is a nice way to say weakness. Okay, uh,
Quirks.
got it. So I think my agent would have a sort of a abstract architect, kind of an architectural approach to they call it systems thinking. I guess would be another way to I have a very kind of a spatial orientation
Yep.
and and uh, systems thinking. What the quirk, or let's call it the weakness, would be, sometimes I need to be more concrete.
Ah, got it. Got it. Well, agents are they will be perfect, right? So it's kind of a trick question.
And when you've got a thought partner, you
That's
can
right.
do both.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Okay, so put your podcast host hat on. You've interviewed some significant thought leaders and practitioners, and I'm curious, what's the most surprising thing that a guest has said to you off camera, maybe that has impacted you or your thinking in any way?
So my very first guest on that very early in this year, 2025, was Monifa Porter. She leads a group that goes in as actually about entrepreneurship,
Mm.
helping companies innovate from the inside. And she talked about Schneider Electric on the
Oh yes.
thing, but what really hit me off camera, I guess, is the compounding effects that they were seeing from one, just from operating with an iterative mindset in one area and how that had. And so I think that helped to really convince me that time to market, time to value, wasted, it's really about time
Yeah.
and that speed of iteration
Mm.
and because of the compounding effects.
I'm gonna go now. I'll go back and take a listen on that one. That's great. That's great. Okay, this one I'm gonna ask you to take your Oracle hat off and think
Okay.
about this as you're an industry player. You're observant of what's happening in AI, generally speaking, in the enterprise space. So, what do you think the percentage of, just call it enterprise AI projects today, that are actually delivering real business value versus just being kind of science projects or just smoke and mirrors?
The percentage?
Yeah, is it? Yeah, like it
I
doesn't have to
mean,
be.
quoting there are so many studies on this that are a lot, but
Yeah.
from my own anecdotal,
Yes.
um, okay, I'm gonna go with a half and half
Half and half. Okay.
because, and this is based on customer conversations
Mm-hmm.
and, just in these conversations, we'll spend half the time roughly
Mm.
talking about where they're getting value, where they're really delivering results, and then half the time on like, yeah, we want to try this out, not sure yet, it's early days.
Got it. No, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. And there's a lot of data out there on this
There
question.
is.
I was just
I'm
curious.
sure
You're
there are many, many studies that say
yes,
it's lower than that, but
yes,
where the kind of executive mind share, I guess, is, it, I think it's half and half.
got it. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. I'm going to throw out the last question because it's too close to asking you what your hobbies are. And I'm going to let you ask me the final question. You can ask me anything you want. Pretend I'm your guest, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay, well, I do like to end AI now with sort of, what is going on in AI right now that, maybe everybody doesn't know about that you would want to share with folks.
Okay. I
Unfortunately,
will.
everyone knows about GPT-5, so
Yeah, everybody. I mean, gosh, it's like anything happens in AI. Somebody sneezes in AI, and there's like 25 articles about it.
right.
Um, no, I will say I talked to the founder of a company that's based out of, I can't remember the city in India. Company's name, if I give it a proper plug, I think it's xpeer.ai. They are a very small company and they are leveraging agentic AI in the software, I guess you'd call it quality and testing space, right? Where, there are big players like Tricentis and gosh, WorkSoft. Maybe I'm big enterprise players, but this is a really really small company that is doing things that is basically automatically detecting software bugs. Right? Clearly, people are coding now with generative AI, but this is detecting software bugs, remediating software bugs, and building processes that are effectively making software development teams a lot more productive and effective in terms of the quality of their output. So I thought that was really interesting because they're completely unknown. He just found me on the internet and I said, "Can I talk to you about what I'm doing?" And I said, "Sure." And we actually wrote a little piece about it.
Hmm.
But it's really, there's so much that's happening that there are companies that are innovating that basically have like 3 engineers and a founder, and they're really doing some disruptive things, and that's what's exciting. And people like me, I opportunistically, learn from and try to help, right? But
Hmm.
there's so much more that's happening than what is in the mainstream like tech press, right?
So
So
true.
anyway, lots of use cases that I think are still. I keep saying that I think we're in like the top of the first inning, right? With
Yeah,
specifically agentic AI, and so lots more to come.
that's great. Can I finish off on that? So
Yes.
let's remember for many of my customers who are very big companies, right?
Yep.
This same concept applies internally. You
Hmm.
can get, and I've heard it from talking to CIOs. They'll get small teams, interns even, right?
Hmm.
Working on similar kinds of innovations like this. So you've
Yep.
got innovation that can happen at a small team level inside, as well as little tiny startups. So
Yeah.
it's a great time.
Yeah. That's awesome. Miranda, I could keep you for hours, but I won't. And I wish you a great rest of your day into the weekend. Thank you so much for joining us.